All right. The more and more I watch that commercial, the more and more I feel like we're so professional.
It looks good.
But we are.
It was, yeah. I like it. I like it. I like it. So, oh, my co-host, you froze a little bit, co-host, but we're gonna keep the party going, okay?
Keep the party going. Keep the party going. Don't worry about it.
All right. So we have Joseph C. Carter, who is running for District 33. We had two other candidates on. We had Dr. Rosalind Osgood, and then we had Terry Williams Eden, who was running for District 33. Both those ladies are Democrats, but Mr. Carter's a Republican, so he's running on the Republican ticket for. Am I correct? Right? I didn't want to.
Yes. Yeah. No, you're
for District 33. So Joseph C. Carter is a Fort Lauderdale native whose family has served this community for 3 generations. Growing up in Melrose Park, politics was never an aspiration of Mr. Joseph's. After being employed by both public school and private schools, Carter became passionate about education and how the current system is failing the children in this community. We're going to let Mr. Carter explain a little bit more about that, but also talk about who he is, what he decides that he's going to bring to District 33. What are the issues stemming from the community, and we'll ask him some questions in the meantime. But go ahead, tell us a little bit about you, what your aspirations are, and what led you to run for District 33.
Well, about me. So I like you said, I'm a Fort Lauderdale native. I grew up in Melrose Park. I went to Stranahan High School. So I'm like, born and bred. I'm one of the few people that you got to like go back 5 generations to find somebody not born in Florida. So like I'm Florida. Like, but my growing up, I saw the service that my family was doing. Everybody in my family is either an educator or a social worker. My grandfather, Joseph C. Carter Sr., has a park named after him in Fort Lauderdale. He was the first Black director of a city of Fort Lauderdale park. And he took that park when he started working for the city of Fort Lauderdale. That park was the only place where Black children could go. Black people weren't allowed at the beach. They weren't allowed at Holiday Park or any of the other parks. But when he took over that park, it was basically just bushes and a building. And he implemented a lot of change, got the basketball court, the football field, and the baseball diamond and the tennis courts. Like he was very instrumental in getting those things put there, because in his mind, if this is the only place Black kids could go to play, give us an actual park. That's the way he looked at it. So he was very, very passionate about making sure that the community had a safe place for children to play, a safe place to learn things like how to play basketball, swimming lessons. A lot of those things he made sure that the park, Sunland Park, when he was working there, that they had all those amenities for the community. And then when he retired from the city, he went on to work for Broward County Parks and Recreations. And after his retirement from Broward County, the city of Fort Lauderdale renamed the park after him. So that's where I grew up. I grew up watching him, and then watching my father, who works for ChildNet. He's an adoption advocate. My mother has been teaching for 25 years. Aunts, uncles. That's the kind of family I grew up in. A service family, teachers, educators. And I ran away from education as long as I could. My mom tried to get me like, just be a teacher, especially in the elementary schools. There is an absence of Black male leadership in elementary schools. And I go back and I think about me in elementary school. I don't think I had a male teacher. And my aunt, who is the guidance counselor at Park Lakes, is very tuned into that. So she was like, you gotta, we need more Black men in the school. So she finally convinced me to get into education. I started as a substitute teacher. I was an interim sub. I've taught 4th grade, 5th grade, middle school. But it wasn't really until I spent last year working at a private school. I taught fourth grade at a private school right next to Oswald Park. And that's when I really started to see the major flaws in our education system as a whole. I started to notice that there is a very adversarial relationship between public schools, private schools, and charter schools. And what happens is the adults involved get so hung up on I'm a public school teacher and charter school teachers are stealing our students. They get so hung up on that they forget about the children, and then the children fall through the cracks. I had an incident last year where I had a young man who had an IEP. He was dyslexic. He had ADHD, but I couldn't get his 504 plan from his elementary school because they didn't want to give it to us. They told us that the school could provide a child psychologist and we could evaluate him ourselves. But thing about
you're in a private school and you were
getting
from a okay.
Yeah. So the whole year we knew he needed accommodations. And they gave his mom to run around. So we all called and was like, hey, listen, we need his paperwork, please, so we can meet his accommodations. And they basically told us, if you want to evaluate him yourself, you can do it. The problem with that is a lot of these small Black churches that have private schools don't have the funds to do a full evaluation. And the only person that suffered was that young man. Hold on, let me put my dog in the back.
It's okay.
Guys, can you put him in the back? Let him out in the back, please. Mailman can't deliver mail here.
Okay, I have dogs too, and they be tripping, child. I'll pay him listen, we know life it is. That's why people run for office. They don't realize it's real human beings running who have. Yeah. Understand that. So we totally don't worry about it. So continue on. Sorry.
So a lot of these, I grew up going to First Baptist Piney Grove, and they have a private school, but a lot of these Black churches that have these private schools, they don't have the resources that the public schools have. So they can't bring child psychologists. They can't bring people in to do all these evaluations. And I started to look at the fact that the only person that suffered in this situation was my student. We tried, but because there's this this tension between public schools, private schools, and charter schools, we end up in these types of situations where the children fall between the cracks. So I became very passionate about first.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I needed to clarify the fact pattern. So the student was a private school student, but you were trying to get the public school to do the evaluation?
No. So he had transferred to our school from the public school, and he had an IEP, and the public school did not want to release the paperwork, the evaluation, to the private school.
Well, they didn't want to give him a copy of the IEP, is what you're saying?
Yeah. Yes.
But the parents get a copy of the IEP at the meeting, so the parents should have a copy of the IEP.
Yes, exactly. And
so they didn't have it?
This parent didn't have it. They had spent some time in Georgia, and it's possible that she had lost it. They had moved to Georgia and moved back. But at the end of the day, in the way I'm thinking is, even if that's the case, the parent lost it, you could provide this for the parent because we needed it as I needed it as his teacher. And I just see that happen more often than not. But it really kind of opened my eyes to some of the cracks in the education system as a whole. And when I talk to public school teachers, I try to explain that people don't go to private schools or charter schools because they dislike public schools. It's not, the parents aren't, angry at the public schools. It's not always the case. This, in most cases, it's religious reasons. Parents want their children to go to a Christian school, or I just spoke with someone the other day who he has his children at a Jewish private school. Sometimes it's simple as that. Sometimes it's special needs. I've worked at a special needs private school, and the reasons for wanting to put your children in a charter school or even homeschool them are all over the place. And for us to just make this blanket assumption that it's a problem with the public school system, I think that it's taking us in the wrong direction, and it's feeding this adversarial relationship between these entities.
When you say a problem, what problem are you experiencing? What you see, being that you're in the education system, public and private?
Well, so the scholarship system, my son has ADHD, and he got a scholarship because of his disorder. But when we were going to schools to try to get him in, they were telling us that they had reached their limit on scholarships that they could accept. And I don't know why there would be a limit on scholarships that schools can accept, but apparently that is a thing where there's a certain amount of scholarships that a school can accept. I don't know if it's percentage
school or public school.
For private schools.
Oh.
And I don't know if it's a percentage of your students or a hard number, but there's a limit. So things like that, things with the charter school and the lottery system, some parents, for whatever reasons, can't afford to wait for a lottery system. They would, rather enroll their students immediately. Like with what we just saw, there were some charter schools that were not requiring masks. And where I fell on the mask was, be responsible, wear one if you feel it's necessary. But there are students who, for various reasons, could not wear masks, whether it's ADHD or whether my wife teaches kindergarten. And I don't know if you've seen what 5-year-olds do with masks, but by the end of the day, you almost don't want them touching the mask because they're filthy. So whatever reason the parents did or didn't want their children to wear masks, I always fell on the side of this should be the parents' choice. And we saw charter school enrollment. They had to open their enrollment because there were so many parents who disagreed with the mask mandate in the public schools, trying to enroll their children in charter schools. But, the lottery system kind of got in the way of that. And, there was a lot of hoops that I know parents had to jump through to get their children into a charter school. And I just don't think that those barriers should exist. And even in the sense of a public school, if a parent doesn't like a school where they are, this doesn't always mean that they're going to take their children to a private school or a charter school. Sometimes they just want to send their kids to another public school, whether it's because the public school is in a better neighborhood, whether it's because the public school has a magnet program, whatever the case may be. I think that ultimately that should be the parent's choice. And there's a lot of barriers in the way currently. I'm a product of magnet programs, and it's one of the best things that happened to me for my education, because the schools in the neighborhood I grew up weren't the greatest. And I had an opportunity to be exposed to a lot of different things by being a part of magnet programs, which is a form of school choice. So I definitely feel like we need to expand the magnet programs, increase.
Isn't the magnet programs in public schools?
Yes. But
okay.
But the funding isn't there anymore. I went to Parkway, which is a performing arts school, and I still keep in touch with my band director from 6th grade, and he'll tell you from 1999 when I was in 6th grade to now, the funding is dried up. They can't afford to new instruments, and this is a performing arts school, and the central point of this school is performing arts, band, chorus, dance, and the funding is dried up in a lot of these performing arts schools and other magnet programs because there's a segment of our population who don't think that that's important.
So let's talk about the funding for a minute. As you're running for senator, so you said the funding is dried up. What part does the Florida legislature play in funding in terms of public schools and the drying up, as you say it, for funding for performing arts and magnet programs? Where do they fall in that?
Well, it's appropriations. So when we get money from the federal government or wherever it comes from, it's my job to get that money back to the district. It's my job to write bills that would appropriate a certain amount of funds back to my district. What I've seen happen is there's been such a focus on STEM that everything outside of STEM has gone ignored. And the fact of the matter is everybody's not going to be an engineer or a mathematician. That's just, not plausible.
So are you saying there's more funding going to STEM? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Okay. As a matter of fact, the arts program at at Parkway has rebranded itself as a STEAM program. So it used to be performing arts, and now it's science, technology, arts, engineering, and math. And it's because all the money is going to STEM, but they're leaving out a pretty big part of the population that, for whatever reason, don't want to go into STEM fields.
Okay, so but your party, which is the majority party in the legislature, is the ones funneling all that money to those programs. What are you going to do if elected for Senate 33 as the party, the majority party? Are you going to try to get your colleagues to kind of think differently in terms of funding?
Yes, I'm definitely. So I've been a Republican for 11 months. I joined the party in January because I chose to run. Prior to that, I was a non-party affiliate. I'm not loyal to a party. I'm loyal to the district. But I have voted for Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, Independents. My view has always been I want to know the person. I don't care about which party they're from. As a matter of fact, I had a wonderful conversation with Elijah Manley last week, and he's running for state rep. And I was very impressed with him, and he gets it. You know, he gets the bipartisan. I don't want hot chocolate, baby. Thank you.
No, it's for me.
Okay, can you close the door though? Because thank you.
Hi.
Oh my gosh.
Hi. It's okay.
That is my daughter.
That shows that you are human, and you know your family is part of this journey.
Yes, that's my baby. She's the only girl, and she knows all the perks that comes with. So,
well, you see, that's what happens when you guys do that. I tell my husband that all the time. We having them girls wrapped around your fingers like that now.
Yeah. If she knows it. But you know, I'm not loyal to a party. You know, I've been critical. I've been just as critical of the Republican Party as I have of any party, because at the end of the day, for me, it's the person and the policies that we're passing. I'm not terribly happy with a lot of the things that the Republicans have done in Florida. You know, but I'm not going up there to represent a party and to, you know, just rubber stamp everything that the Republicans do. My goal is to improve District 33. That's the only goal that I have going to Tallahassee. And the party I go as a part of is irrelevant, in my opinion. I know a lot of people, they put a lot of focus on the party, and I consider myself, I love history. I am a big history nerd, and I consider myself a Frederick Douglass Republican. That is a Republican Party that I envision when I think about the party, because Frederick Douglass is one of my favorite historical figures. He was a Republican. And that's what I consider myself, more of the Frederick Douglass Republicans, not so much of what we see today.
So if you don't really care about the party, why not stay an NPA and run that way? Why choose a party?
That was originally my plan. However, I had to face reality. I had my advisor tell me campaigns need money. And that's just a fact. And while fundraising and asking for money and donations, you know, it's not the most appealing part of running. It is a reality of running. And choosing a party does benefit in that way.
Okay. Co-host, you have questions? I know that you were taking some notes. And you're on mute, by the way. Co-host. Oh,
yes. Sorry about that. I was like, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so I was taking notes on a couple of things, and I don't know if we kind of moved past the point already. So what I'll do is that we'll kind of engage the conversation, and then we may come back to what I was talking about, because I do have a lot of issues with the school system, with schools. I have a child in public school. I also have a child in charter school. I took my daughter out of public school and put her in a private school and put her back in public. So I've done the whole gamut of schools. One of the reasons for that is my daughter is also special needs, and she has an IEP. So I do understand, like, with that dynamic and getting caught in the middle of, you know, those type of things. And I've been on wait lists for charter schools and all of that. So I understand that. And those are issues I do believe that can be addressed, like on the state level. And we talk about this when we spoke with all the other individuals that came on, is one of the big problems is that lottery money that they promised was going to do all of these things for education, and it ain't doing it, right? The only thing is doing it gave a bunch of Bright Future scholarship, but most of the students who get Bright Future scholarships were going to get scholarships no matter what, because they are the top of the line students that are coming out of the public school system. So I'm like, okay, y'all just kind of, I don't know what y'all doing, because y'all just doing stuff that could have been done some other way, as opposed to really appropriating the funds for, students that could have really benefited from, this lotto money that they convince a lot of people. So I definitely spoke on all of that, and I do understand the passion for education and the need for it, the importance of it. But I also took issue with the point you made about some, good schools, bad schools, all that kind of stuff, right? Like, that really shouldn't be a thing, right? Like, it shouldn't be.
I 100% agree.
Money comes and it's supposed to go everywhere, so it shouldn't be no bad school or good school because of the neighborhood. You don't get this kind of education and all of that, right? So the fact that we even engage in that narrative, to me, is like problematic, because that should not be the case. There are a lot of issues that are more deep rooted that makes that happen than the fact that there's a public school system, and adding a charter school and maybe giving public money to private schools. That's not going to solve the problem of why there are certain neighborhoods that have schools that ain't got nothing, right? And to me, I'm taking the money out of the public school system, as opposed to making those systems do what they're supposed to, is what really should happen, as opposed to allowing individuals to create schools, get a whole, buy a plaza, put the school in it, close the school, and then get to keep the money in the plaza, and they don't have to pay no money back to nobody, right? Like, so I don't think and I'm not saying that's all of what's happening with charter schools, but it's happening with a whole bunch of them, right? They get this money, they put it in a plaza, they have it for a couple years, it go bankrupt, but they still got all the money that they got from the school system, and now they own a plaza, and then there's no school. Like, to me, that's not the solution. We need to make those schools better. But go ahead.
And just to add on, that those kids that have to end up leaving the charter schools that were initially open go back, and then those schools don't get those monies anymore for those students.
Right.
So when you say that there is an adversarial relationship, I think it's not that it's adversarial, but more so that there is some unfairness going on, right?
Yeah, I 100% agree with that point. But I think that when we have teachers that are so focused on, all three of my children go to charter school. Last year they were in public schools, and we put them in a charter school, and we're happy with the charter school. But I think that it's bigger than just where money is going. It's very easy, and we've seen this. We've seen this over the past 4 decades, where we just throw money at a problem, and we expect that to fix it. But the fact of the matter is, it has not fixed it. We throw money at this, we throw money at that. But I do think that the level of accountability on the part of charter schools can be improved, but also on the part of public schools, because like you said, there shouldn't be a situation where this is a bad public school and this is a good public school simply because of the zip code or where it is. Like I said, I grew up in Melrose Park, and my mom did not want me to go to Broward Estates. Now, when I was in kindergarten,
I'm gonna cut you off and I'm gonna show you something. So I have a Parkway.
I still have my Parkway Cavaliers shirt.
And I'm like an honorary Parkway person.
I still have mine. Do you know Mr. Mater? Do you know Mr. Mater?
No, I don't know Mr. Maynard. I know a lot of educators too, right? And
okay.
All of them somehow from Parkway, with the Parkway group in Parkway, teacher at Parkway.
Yeah.
So I got a whole bunch of Parkway events. So, and I was at the last get together.
Honorary Cavalier.
Yeah, when you said it, I was like, okay, I gotta show them the Parkway shirt.
Honorary.
All right, so we broke the ice.
No, but I think that your standpoint is a standpoint I hadn't heard before. And I think that that's what needs to happen. There needs to be communication. There needs to be an openness to all ideas. Like I said, when I spoke with Elijah Manley, we didn't agree on everything, but we were on the phone for like 45 minutes, and there were things we agreed on. There were things we didn't agree on, but there was a a lot of things that we agreed on the outcome, and we just had different ideas on how to get there. I think that bringing that to Tallahassee would benefit. I'm, and I don't have the benefit of knowing in America that wasn't so divisive. I was in elementary school when they impeached Clinton, which was unjustified. And so this whole Democrat versus Republican and butting of the heads, I don't know in America where that wasn't the case because I was a child. I was born in 1987. And my entire life, that's been what I've seen. We don't see the JFK Nixons anymore. We see, I'm on this side, I'm gonna stay on this side. I'm on this side, I'm gonna stay on this side. And we're just not going to communicate. And I think that is a problem. There needs to be communication. And at the end of the day, there needs to be compromise. I'm not here to push an agenda for one side and stick in my little corner in my echo chamber. And, this is where we stand. And that's been my problem with a lot of people that I've seen on both sides, Democrats and Republicans, is that they're so stuck on one side and they don't want to talk. They don't want to reach across the aisle. They don't want to get any communication going. And that is how we end up in a situation where nothing gets done at every level, the state level, the national level, where things simply don't get done. And it's because everybody's just stuck on their side. So thank you for bringing that point up, because that is not a point that I had thought of in my idea of school choice. That's not a point that I had thought of. And that you brought that up, that is definitely an idea to consider, because it isn't right that a charter school gets all these funds, shuts down the school, keeps the funds. There needs to be a mechanism in place where that money gets diverted back. Now, I do believe that a portion of the tax dollars should follow the students if they go to a charter school. Not all, but a portion, especially if they go to a charter school, or if it goes into a scholarship program for a private school, or if the child is homeschooled. If the child is homeschooled, that money doesn't go anywhere. And I do believe that there needs to be some changes there. But in the event that a private school or a charter school shuts down, there needs to be a mechanism in place that forces that money back into the public school system, because that's where those children are going to go. So that's a good point that you brought up. And that is definitely.
I think that's the part that maybe that gives you the adversarial feel of it, or whatever.
Yes.
Majority of people who support public schools, and that's one of their major concerns, is that these charter schools can pop up and shut down for a few months, and then all that money is gone, and then they have to deal with children coming back to the school with a deficit. And so there needs to be, it has to be a mechanism.
Yeah, definitely 100%
mechanism for those monies to come back. But also, I think that we talked about kids having IEPs and the services in public school. Most of the monies that we were talking about funding needs to go into what needs to go in, not just, you talked about it going into STEM also. But I think if the money not being refused by the governor right now, because the governor has refused several big fund monies.
And again, this is, I'm on this side, you're on this side, and we're not going to talk. And that needs to stop.
Right. The people are not put first. That's the problem. The problem, I think, that most people who are now running for office and who are in office forget that the power is with the people, not the people in power.
100%.
So, and because of that, you have this, constant battle or whatever. While Sandra and I have made very clear that we are starch Democrats, but we do always have conversations with people with different views, and we're always ready to listen and hear. I just thought I was very curious to see someone whose grandfather created the first Black park and all that other stuff. I just wanted to see where your ideology fell, because I'm still grappling with the choice.
Mm-hmm. But no, I'll explain. So where I stand, and I'm a Christian, mm-hmm. and that guides my views politically.
Okay.
So we were asked a question on another panel. It basically came down to pro-life, pro-choice. I'm pro-life. I'm a Christian. I am pro-life, and biblically, it's repeated through the Bible that a life in the womb is a life. Now, we can, parse at what point is an abortion okay, but I'm not, like, one of the places I don't bend is the fact that that's a life. I have 3 children. I've seen the sonograms. There's movement. There's a heartbeat. There's fingers. So that's a life. So I'm pro-life, and I'm also pro-religious freedom as well as all freedoms. So I don't think that I have a friend who's Muslim, and homosexuality is a sin in the Muslim culture, as it is in Christianity. But with him, he's a lot more strict on it. So there are certain things that he tries to avoid involving homosexuality, and I think that that's his religious right. As a devout Muslim, that's his religious right. So long as we aren't discriminating or seeking to harm anyone in the LGBT community, I think that him as a Muslim, as a devout Muslim, has the right to disagree with the lifestyle of someone who's homosexual. So the Republicans just seem to fall more on the lines of religious freedoms. And again, this does not mean refusing service or discriminating, or that's not what that means. But I think we've gotten to a point now where it's, I think in California, you can get arrested for misgendering someone. And the fact that we're policing speech like that based on we don't even know what anymore is extremely problematic, because this type of policing of speech went on in the 50s, there would be no Joseph C. Carter Park, because my grandfather said a lot of things that people didn't like. And if in my opinion, I know people that are not Christian. I know people that I have friends that are atheists. One of my closest friends is an atheist, and he says things about Christians all the time. And I have 2 options. I could laugh and, he's an atheist, whatever, or I could not be his friend anymore. And I think that is where we fall. And with a lot of these things is we are trying to police speech. And I don't think we end up on a very slippery slope when we do that. And at the end of the day, at this point, and it's happened on both sides, the Sedition Act, we're Republican. It's happened on both sides. But right now, I just don't see as much of that coming from the Republican side.
Okay. All right. So I got a couple things that I want to say. All right. So when we talk about pro-life, pro-choice, and those type of issues, so at the end of the day, if we're talking about people's freedoms, and we're in America and you should be able to do and feel however you want. Everybody in this country is not a Christian, everybody's not a Muslim, everybody not religious. So I don't understand. So the problem with and then we have we're supposed to have this whole separation of church and state going on in the United States, right?
Okay.
So if that's the case, then why is it that they're legislating Christian fundamentalist policies, right? In legislate, like when you legislate that a person cannot have an abortion, you're legislating Christian fundamental policies, right? But we're in a country that's separating church and state. So you could believe life is a life if you want to, but you should not be forcing anybody else to believe that, right? When people can make arguments that the science says otherwise, right? And the laws that talk about cutting off late-term abortions or whatever, at viability, a person can't abort. Most folks can understand that, because there are people that give birth to children at 20 weeks, give birth to babies, fetuses, whatever you want to call them, at 20 weeks, and they survive. So so someone, we can get there, but how you going? To me, it's how are you trying to force someone to have a child that they may not want to have, right? That's one thing, right? But then also these same people who try to act like, we all care about the children or whatever, but you can't get them to pass any legislation that would help take children out of poverty, right? So you care for them to get born, but once they're here, then who?
You're talking about a lot of people that I am not. So
no, I'm not saying you're that, right? But part of the conversation was about you're saying that part of the reason why you're a Republican is because you're a Christian. I think that's what you said. Yes, and then one of the things was about the pro-life, pro-choice argument, and so that's the point I'm making. So if you made a decision to be a Republican because of your religious faith, then my thing is but then at the same breath saying how we have all these freedoms in the United States, then we should not be legislating Christian fundamentalist policies. We shouldn't do that. Okay, that's not what everybody thinks.
Well, here's where I fall with the abortion. You can have an abortion debate without bringing up Christianity at all. There is, if a pregnant woman is shot and killed, it goes down as a double homicide, whether she's 5 weeks pregnant or. Let me finish. I'll let you talk. Let me finish.
I'm gonna let you know I'm a lawyer, so go ahead.
And listen, that is fine. That is fine.
Okay.
And it's a double homicide. Here's my thing. If you want to get an abortion because you don't want the baby, you're not ready to raise a child, you don't think that the father has any say in that whatsoever?
That's a separate issue about whether or not a father.
I'm asking.
Whether a father should say whether a woman should have a child or not?
No. Okay, so let's say me.
Is that the question?
Let's say me and Sally. We date. Sally gets pregnant.
All right.
Sally wants to have an abortion. You don't think I should have any say at all?
I think you should have some say. I'm all for it. Let the man have some say, you know.
But Sally can still go get the abortion, right?
Sally sure can, because it's Sally's body. But
You're
so
let me get to the point I'm making.
Okay, go ahead.
So Sally doesn't want the baby. She doesn't feel like she's ready to be a mother, so she can go have an abortion. Now let's flip that. Tables turn. Sally wants the baby. I don't. Sally wants to go have the baby. I don't want to be a father. What is the government going to do to me?
Make you pay for the baby that you are genetically related to. Right.
You're right. And here's the thing. If Sally wants to have the baby and give it to me and go on by her merry way, fine. And I was a single father for 4 years. My 2 oldest children are not from my wife, and it was just me and them for 4 years, and I raised them by myself. I just think that every life has value. That's all. And I don't think that it being an inconvenience. I had my son was born, I was 22 years old. And I hadn't graduated college yet. I was working at a call center, making $10 an hour. I wasn't prepared to be a father, but this life came and I had to get it together. And his mother decided she didn't want to do that, and she left. And that's fine. She 100% has that right. Today is his 12th birthday, and I'm thankful.
Happy
birthday.
And I'm thankful that she didn't choose an abortion, because she could have easily said, I don't feel like being a mother, I'm gonna have an abortion. Instead, she had him, and then she just dipped out, and that's fine. She has that right. But I'm thankful that she didn't take away the opportunity for me to be a father, because he's one of the most important people in my life. You know, he really helped me to gain perspective. He helped me to solve different things in my life, and I had to get it together. I had the responsibility.
And I understand that. So we're gonna agree on some things. And I'm listen, I have like Haitian parents, so I'm probably more conservative than most people in this room. But that, you know,
not you. We have.
I have extremely conservative views, but intellectually, I can, I understand a lot of things intellectually. So, but this is my thing. So the scenario that you're providing, like, I don't believe anybody should use abortion as a form of birth control. I do not believe that.
Okay.
Like, like if you are here doing all these things that's gonna get you pregnant, and then you get pregnant and you're like, I don't want to have this baby, cause like I don't agree with that. But at the end of the day, people do whatever hey, do you, right? But at the same time, I absolutely do not agree at all with anybody that's using abortion as a form of birth control. I'm not co-signing on that. If you come to me, you tell me that, I'm gonna let you know how I feel, and you do what you want with that bit of information, right? Okay. Now, what gets sticky for me, right, is like, these people that are victims of rape and incest and all that kind of 100%. Stuff, right? Don't tell me that some girl need to have her uncle baby, right, or her daddy baby.
No, I agree with you there. I agree with you there.
Right there, we just not gonna I'm just never gonna agree to that. And if a woman chooses to have a baby, if she's a victim of rape and she chooses to have that child, that's on her. But the law forcing her to do that, come on now. So like I
think a lot of the legislation that's been written carves out some space for rape and incest, and now I'm in support of
that. Texas one don't.
No, it doesn't.
Well, I don't live in Texas, and I'm not right.
Florida trying to do the same thing too.
And I get it, but here's the thing: this is why there needs to be conversation, because again, we're back to this. We're all on this side. No one's talking in the middle. That's the problem. And one of the things for me was when you just lay it out. All of the people that are pushing for abortion for any reason, we can agree that it shouldn't be a form of birth control. Be responsible and let it be what it is. We can agree on that. You just said it. There's the people who are pushing for abortion without any reason, just because, repeatedly, up to 9 months. Because there's been the governor of Virginia last year, or it might have been 2019, said that if a baby survives the abortion, we'll lay it on a table and decide what the mother wants to do. Well, once it's
ain't no law finna allow that. Like that's just not
that's
gonna
what I'm
happen.
saying. and that's what I'm saying. So
yeah, that's crazy talk.
Exactly. But again, and I'm not speaking for you all, but I'm speaking for him. And these are ideas that are not supported by the Republican Party. Now, does the Republican Party have a lot of work to do in the messaging and the way they handle it? Of course. But there are no Republicans saying, well, if you survive the abortion, we're going to set the baby to the side and figure out what the mom wants to do. And that's kind of where I'm like, because once the baby survived the abortion, it's outside the mother's womb. It's a life. It's a separate life at that point. And I don't think that we should. So I think that there is a lot of conversation that needs to be had and less fighting. And that's the problem, is we got fighting, not conversation, fighting. There's a big difference. We can sit here and argue, but what gets done? Without conversation, nothing gets done.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
No, yeah, absolutely. That we've had this conversation all the time about, not using abortion as a form of birth control, because I'm not a supporter of that either. But I do, because once you write legislation for everybody. And you said that, that they're not really carving out anything, but they should be, to make concessions for those in those types of situations. And we're hoping that
I may have misspoke. I meant to say they should be carving out. I may have misspoke.
Yes,
that should be carved out, because like you said, there's no reason for a 16-year-old girl or 12-year-old girl to be forced to have their uncle's baby.
Absolutely not. So there's so we spoke about the lotto money, that they're not doing much with the lotto money. And every state senate person who's running for state senate, we've always said, listen, we want you all to go get that lotto money, because we want that lotto, we want the coins back. Okay,
we want that money back.
That's the one thing very high on our priority list. But what is high on District 33's priority list? What are the top 3 things do you think that your district is looking to? I mean, after knocking on doors, listening to people, what's the common theme, the top 3 things that you've heard from your constituents? Definitely
education. They're concerned about education, and that district has a lot of single mothers, and single mothers got it, they're struggling as it is a lot of times. It's hard to raise. I mean, I did it. Being a single father ain't much more fun than being a single mother. I would imagine that our struggles are similar, not the same, but similar. But they are worried about education. They're worried about funding within the schools for before care and after care, because a lot of times when you're a single parent, you work in multiple jobs. And you don't know what to do with your child. You don't want your 4th grader at home by himself at 2:00. But so they're worried about funding, and I think that there can definitely be more done in aiding the public schools with before and after care.
Because in middle school, they don't start school till like 9:10, 9:40. Exactly. It's like, how they gonna get there? Like, everybody got to be to work at 9 o'clock. Like,
I never understood that.
Like, I don't understand it.
I never understood. And Parkway's like the only middle school that starts at 7:45. All the rest of them start at like 9:30, and it's like,
what?
15. You're like, I mean, I need to be there at 9 o'clock.
For like those random 3 years in between, and then like high school, and it's back to 7:45.
Right.
Thought of this?
And I'm telling you, and that's the age you definitely don't want to leave your kid at home by themselves, because
I taught 7th grade.
You gotta blame. It's the bus system that causes the chime change, because they're using the same buses. So
I never thought of that.
That's their story, and they sticking to it.
That's their story, and they sticking to it. Okay.
So then, if that's the case, where's the funding for more bus drivers? Where's the funding to hire more bus drivers? If that's what we're talking about, where's the funding to hire more bus drivers? That seems like if you truly care about the parents and what they have to go through, instead of, because God forbid you have a 5th grader and a 6th grader. Now you got one child you got to get to school at 7:45, another child you got to be to school for another 2 hours. You still got to be to work at 8:30, 9 o'clock.
And then after school is the same thing too. One child leaves at 2, the other one's 3:45, 4 o'clock. So where's that gap in between?
Exactly. So if we're gonna say, it's the bus drivers, fine. How do we implement the funds to hire more bus drivers? That just seems like an easier long-term fix. But again, fighting, not conversation, because it's something that can be brought up. Okay, fine. That's the problem. How can we get more funding to hire more bus drivers? That just seems like an easier long-term fix, but again, fighting, not conversation, because it's something that can be brought up. Okay, fine. That's the problem. How can we get more funding to hire more bus drivers? That just seems like an easier long-term fix, but again, fighting, not conversation, because it's something that can be brought up. Okay, fine. That's the problem. How can we get more funding to hire more bus drivers. What is the number we need? How many bus drivers do we need to accommodate all the public schools? Great. What's that going to cost? Great. Let's get that money.
Yeah. But now they got a problem because the bus driver's working for Amazon.
Exactly. It's like I gotta deal with this. I'm going to get a job.
Them people was like, "Whoa, I can make how much driving?" So
yeah, but the school district try to up it up by saying, "Hey, we're gonna give y'all like $16,000." Like,
no, they need to do something because I ordered some on Amazon. They're like, "We dropping it off at 3 a.m." I'm like, "Who dropping stuff off at 3 in the morning?"
Okay.
But yeah, you know that there is that. So education is a major concern, especially when you start talking about before and after care in summer programs. You know, because you know every other parent don't get off for the summer. You know, teachers get off for the summers, but other parents don't. So education before and after care summer programs being implemented is something that they're definitely concerned with. They're also concerned with infrastructure. And my thing with infrastructure has always been it doesn't have to only come from one source. We don't have to only rely on the federal government for infrastructure. That can be pulled from state funds as well, especially in a state that operates at a surplus. I live in Sunrise, but I drive down Oakland Park Boulevard every day. And right down Oakland Park Boulevard to 441, them roads are toe up. And they've been toe up since I was in high school. And it's like no one has thought to fix. Now, here's the thing. You go out to Weston, you go to Pembroke Pines, you go to West Sunrise, like on the other side of Nob Hill. None of them roads look like that. The Lauderdale Lakes, Lauderhill, North Lauderdale, the roads are torn up. They fill the potholes, and then 2 days later, it's a pothole again. And my thing has always been because of everybody, because I can only control me. I can't stop Governor DeSantis and Joe Biden from fighting. Just like if we had a Democrat governor and a Republican president, I'm not gonna be able to stop them from fighting. And I don't want to put my district in a position where we're relying on the governor and the president getting along to get federal funds, especially if I could pull these funds statewide, especially if I could try to find a way to get these funds another way. Federal funds help, great. But in the event that we are sitting here in this tug of war with federal funds, I don't think that the citizens should have to wait for these two grown men to get it together, because at the end of the day, they don't got to drive down Oakland Park Boulevard every day. They're not dealing with plazas being shut down and the roads being torn up and nobody fixing them because it's not that important. So
and there's another thing with the infrastructure part that you're talking about too, that has a little bit of a connection to the environmental stuff. So like last year, you know, it was a lot of rain, and then all these streets were flooded, right? People's houses were flooded. It was like you had to like swim your way out. They had boats on the streets, you know what I mean, like that type of thing. So that's infrastructure too, but that's part of like what happens with climate change. And you can't even get people to say, listen, you need to get someone that's willing to like, you know, make sure your place isn't flooded, right? And out east had a lot of those issues. We had some out west, but it was not the same. I'm like, because I live out west, it was not the same. And what our issue was, you know, they got all these lakes back there, and the water got too high, and it was in the streets and all of that. And then all of a sudden, like within months, we had this meeting that they had done something with the whole drainage system. They figured out how to make, you know, so they, you know, so we ain't gonna, you know, like you said, the difference in the neighborhoods, and it really should not be like that. So when it rains again, Miramar and Pembroke Pines might be okay because they done figured out how to do the drainage to make sure that these fake lakes don't overflow into the street anymore, right? But then people out east were literally like the water was in their house above all of their furniture, right?
And I live in East Sunrise, and you can tell there's a very clear difference. And my mom would never get it, but I always prefer the East. Like my mom, when we moved west, my freshman year, so I grew up in Melrose Park. In my freshman year of high school, we moved out to Inverary. And when I say I got on the bus every Saturday and went back to Melrose Park, and my mom was like, "Why do you want?" I was like, "Because that's where I'm from. That's where my people are. That's the people I want to hang out with." And quite frankly, playing basketball over here just isn't as fun. You know, I'm getting tired of people scared to call a foul because they think we're gonna have to scrap. Like in Melrose Park, we just scrap. It is what it is. So I've always had an affinity for the things out east. You know, my preferred library is African American Research Library. I just love being over there. I love being in that area. For Veterans Day, my daughter's Girl Scout troop, they went to put flags on the graves of soldiers on that the cemetery right there on 31st. And I just, my grandfather's buried there. I just love being on that side of Broward County. My wife from Miramar, she don't get it, and I can't stand being in Miramar. I'll pass on that. But
don't you hating on my city?
but infrastructure is something that and then you brought up, I think in Florida we're in a unique situation with hurricanes that you simply can't ignore what's going on. And I actually think that Representative Brian Mast has done a lot. He's one of the few, and I would imagine it's because of his unique situation and living in South Florida, where he's done a lot for the environment in Florida. But I would, first of all, I went to FIU, so the bridge collapsing touched home because that's my school. And with these, I think that the so getting on to infrastructure, schools, but the environment, Everglades restoration. You know, that is a part of our environment and honestly, it's baked into the culture of South Florida. You know, my daughter loves the Jungle Queen. She thinks it's the classiest thing in the world. So we're going to Jungle Queen it up until she realizes that there's a better cruise situation. Until she realizes that, Jungle Queen is where we're going.
Don't steal her joy.
Jungle Queen and Olive Garden, and my daughter is happy. So,
okay, yeah, we got it. Well, okay, so my son is an Olive Garden person. I don't know how old your daughter is, but they're gonna be good. You know, my son is 12. Listen,
well, she's 10.
Okay, then it's a date then.
but you know, we go out to the Jungle Queen, and you know, I have a friend that lives 1 block away from the Seminole reservation, and their attachment to the Everglades and everything, it's a part of our culture. It truly is. So I think the Everglades restoration is very important, making sure that we don't lose that. You know, we can build and build and build, but first of all, as a native Floridian, I don't want to give people no more reasons to move down here. So stop building apartments.
Okay.
Let them stay in their own state. Stop coming to my state and taking up space. Like, no.
And making everything cost more than we ain't getting paid more, right?
Exactly.
You be like, wait, who could buy a $400,000 townhouse right now?
Exactly.
Like $20 an hour. That's right. It don't make sense. So
we don't need to build for the sake of building. There is room to just enjoy the natural beauty that we have here. So Everglades restoration, but also the how often these buildings are inspected needs to be shortened. Like I'm 34 years old, so when you think about this 40-year window, you can essentially have had a building be inspected before I was born, before there was cell phones, before there was an iPad, before there was like, and we are here in 2021, and it still has not gone through another inspection. How many, like with the advances we have in technology, the advances we have in building techniques, and the understanding we have of how nature works, and all of these things can change so much over the course of 4 decades that I would actually, I've heard 20 years, I would shorten that to 10 years. The buildings need to be inspected way more often and touched up to ensure that we don't have another situation like we had in Miami Beach, another situation like we had at FIU, where we had buildings collapsing because they simply were out of date. So that is,
it's a combination of out of date, and the other combination of people be like shady, right? So you know, like let's not ignore the fact that, you know, the signs were there, and people like, but it's gonna cost too much, right? Because nobody don't pay for
but
nothing.
then they lean on the inspection. They lean on the fact that we passed our last inspection. Yeah, but that's 35 years ago. So, you know how much can happen in 35 years? Like that was a long time ago. Yeah. So if we shorten it's much more difficult to lean on. We passed our last inspection because your last inspection was within this decade. A lot, and even 10 years could be. But I'm a firm believer in taking small taking small steps to get to the ultimate goal. You know, I can easily come out and say it need to be inspected every 5 years. People lose their mind if we go from 40 to 5 years. People head to blow up. Yeah. So we can go incrementally. We can work our way down. But 40 years is definitely,
that's crazy. That's just crazy.
When I heard of that, so I have a friend who does a lot of work with FIU. He goes there to recruit for his business. And we went.
But FIU was let's not. We don't want to confuse the people. FIU's bridge was not a 40-year issue. That was like a problem with the structure when it was in the first place. There was message left like, "Yo, we think this stuff gonna have a problem." They're like, and then somebody act like they didn't get the message. So
100%. Yeah, I don't want that to be confused. It was
that was not a 40-year problem. That was like, it was kind of built a little messed up. And when you talk about like architects and engineering, like every little, like I don't know, like a thin line can make a huge difference. It builds and it creates a whole bunch of problems. So you can't have them kind of mistakes.
Exactly, and there can be oversight there. And a lot of it falls down to people doing their job. The state legislatures have jurisdiction to provide oversight over a lot of these things. With the schools, they just don't. They just don't, and that's just the fact. They just don't. And we have a lot of people who get elected, and they just like, cool, this is all right, and that's problematic. I am not a fan of career politicians. I'm not a fan of career candidates. I made this very clear. But this was before the special election. I was going to run in 2022, maybe 2024. But after that, I was hanging it up because I want to go back to doing what I like. I don't even like Tallahassee like that. Like Tallahassee's nice, but I'm a Gator fan anyway. So I ain't trying to be in Tallahassee all the time.
It starts off with her Gator stuff, child. All right.
I ain't trying to be in Tallahassee all the time. But I've had people ask me, was I interested in running for Congress? I was like, no, it's snow in DC. I ain't trying to go to DC. It's cold. I'm from Florida. I'm not trying to deal with that.
Remember, he like 5 generations Florida. So
yeah, I'm Florida. Like we Florida. I'm pretty sure I bleed orange juice. Like, but again, I never wanted to be a career politician, and I think when it goes to these legislators who get elected and then they just drop the ball, this happens on both sides of the aisle. They get elected, they drop the ball, they miss votes. One of the things that irks me the most, I have been very cautious on voting for people who left one office before finishing their term. That irks me. It's like, we elected you for 4 years, and here you are a year in, and you decide, nah, this ain't good enough. That irks me so much. It's like, we elected you. Like when and it's no secret, I'm not a fan of Marco Rubio, but when he got elected to the state senate and then ran for president, I was like, bro, he got elected senator and ran for president. I was like, bro, you didn't even finish this one. Like,
wait, and he lied too, because he actually said he wasn't gonna run again. Yep, he said he wasn't gonna run it again, and he did. He sure did. Yeah. Yep. I'm not gonna run for state senator again, and he did.
It's that kind of stuff that bothers me, but it's that kind of stuff that is that career politicians do. And this is another thing me and Elijah touched on, is that's one thing that is about as bipartisan as it gets. People are tired of career politicians. My dad is a staunch Democrat. I might be the first Republican he ever vote for and the last. But he is but even him can't stand career politicians, can't stand people being in DC for 30, 40, 50 years and not getting things done. That's something the term.
But they're not gonna say they're not getting things done. They're gonna be like, well, we made small steps, because when I started here, they didn't do anything, and we've made small steps.
I renamed the post office.
Can't happen overnight.
It's like, and I just don't think that is a way to run. The way our government was set up, it's supposed to be run by the people. The House of Representatives, the reason why those elections are every 2 years is because it was supposed to shuffle in new citizens every 2 years, not shuffle in the same group of people every 2 years. Like, how many years?
Co-host and I have this conversation all the time. We were, especially during this congressional race, we weren't happy with those who decided to kind of, put their seat on the back burner and resign to run for a seat that they could have tried for, in
2022.
And so we were like, listen, we voted for you to be in this position. You haven't even shown us what you can do, but you jumping from one to the next.
And that was my criticism. Perry Thurston, Bobby Du Bois, Sheila McCormick. Well, not Sheila McCormick.
No, Sheila's not elected official.
Yeah, Barbara Sharif.
Dale Holness.
All these people just got elected in 2020, and
Omari Hardy out of Palm Beach. Yeah, Omari Hardy out of Palm Beach.
It's like y'all just got here. How y'all already ready to dip? And I live in the district, so I'm looking at Perry Thurston. He missed the last 2 votes last year because he was already campaigning for District 20. And I'm sitting here like, bro, you want me to vote for you here, but you didn't finish your work here. You barely started your work here. And I don't like any politician that does that. I just gave 2 examples of Perry Thurston, a Democrat, Marco Rubio, a Republican. To me, it don't matter. When you run for something and you know that term is 4 years or 2 years or 6 years, stay there until you're done. Now, if you want to run for something else later, be my guest. But I am adamant on when you are elected for something. I don't even think in Florida we have a resign to run law. I don't even think that should be a thing because we shouldn't have people ready to leave what they're currently doing.
Yeah, so they do have it now. They didn't have it before, but they do have it now, and it was part of that voting stuff that they're doing. So yeah,
so all those people you're talking about, like right now, depending on who wins in the districts that are coming up, you're going to have your district will have no representation in January.
Exactly.
And then I think 94 will have representation.
Yeah, because there's no
January 11th because that's
They allow them to come in because they can still be kind of funky about that. And then District 88 does not have
not going to have a representation because there's a Republican in that race, and that's going to have to wait till March. And again, when we do this, the only people that lose out are the citizens. None of the politicians lost anything. They good, but the only people that lose.
Well, they got to go find something to do with their time right now. So
look, let me tell you something. Listen, so I got a friend that just moved to Texas, right?
Yes, their partners are like, "Why you home?"
she just moved to Texas, and she was asking me about Allen West because he's running for governor in Texas, and she was like, "What do you know about Allen West?" I said, "Listen, Allen West is a career candidate if I've ever seen one in my life. That man love raising money, can't win an election." I said, listen, y'all be better off just sticking with the dude y'all got because Allen West ain't it. But that's been my critique.
Well, they don't want to stick with the dude they got, but they don't want him either, right? They got to be.
No, they don't want him either.
I think Beto is like a Democratic candidate over there in Texas. I can't let you just go there and say that.
This has been my thing with Beto.
I need Beto or somebody in there, Matthew McConaughey or something. But
this my thing with Beto.
Like you said, no. Like you said, he ain't doing it.
Listen,
okay, well, we need Beto up in there.
Here's what I always ask people. This is my thing with Beto, and this is where he messed it up. Somebody need to talk to him. Texas is one of them states where you can't talk about taking nobody guns. And he keeps talking about that. I'm like, bro, talk about something else. That ain't the thing you talk about in Texas. I'm pretty sure you get a gun when you graduate middle school in Texas. Like they just hand it to you with your diploma.
No, you get that when you turn 12.
Well, because here's my thing. Vermont is a very pro Second Amendment state. They love their guns in Vermont. You notice that as left as Bernie Sanders is,
you don't say that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna talk about that. They'd be like, "Hey, so Bernie, we need you about these." No, I ain't talking about guns. You know what state I'm from?
Okay.
I start talking about taking guns, they gonna kick me out of this state, and that's where Beto keep messing up. I said, like, who's advising him? He need to stop talking about that in Texas.
Especially Texas.
Texas.
Yeah, Texas.
Bro, you need to run on something else because you ain't gonna run on we taking your guns in the state of Texas. That's the state they ain't happy.
That's not gonna work. That's not gonna work.
Like I said,
their mottos don't mess with Texas. They mean it.
I got a buddy. Oh, as a matter of fact, I listen to Bomani Jones.
Yeah, I love him.
I love Bomani Jones.
I love him.
He's good for letting people know I'm from Houston. I'm from Texas. And when people say I'm from Texas, you know exactly what they mean. I'm from Texas. Yeah. Okay. All right. I know exactly what that means. I might get shot. So I'm a back off.
Yeah, that's open carry. You stand your ground on your neighbor's house. Like I'm telling you.
So I really think that's where Beto messing up in Texas. He needs to start talking about taking guns and start talking about something different and just stand. Every time somebody bring up a gun, he needs to just start coughing and pretend like he got COVID and run away.
Okay.
Because he can't get out of his own way with that. And I'm watching him. I'm like, but you know what state you
in? Yeah.
You in the wrong state for this.
Yeah.
We agree. We certainly agree, but them Democrats in Texas are should be talking to them because they gave all that smoke when they left. Remember when they packed up?
When they were trying to, they're like there will be no quorum.
How about we quorum? Okay,
but that's that. But
all right. So you said education, infrastructure, and the environment. Those
environment.
And those are the things that your top priorities in terms of what you would do if elected in Tallahassee and start. Unfortunately, because you guys have to wait till March 8th. You won't have any representation till then. But yeah, I think the last two candidates touched on Medicare and Medicaid and said those were some of the top issues for them. And then they did talk about, infrastructure and the environment. And so we do see a staunch difference from all three candidates. Do you not, Sandra? I think I see a big difference between the three. The other two have similar things, but one is up here, one is down here, and then you're like right in the middle.
I think that is, I think that is where compromise comes in. And I will say this from what I've noticed and I've talked to other candidates who are first-time candidates. We seem to be more open to compromise. I like Elijah Manley and Jenna Haig and all these other people who are running for offices. I was talking to a young lady who's running for city commission in Sunrise, and first-time candidates, which is why I think term limits are so important, because once you are new, you're more open to compromise. You want to get things done. There's a sense of urgency. But if you get there, I'm just gonna keep running. You kick the can down the road. I'll do this next session. I'll do this next session. I'll do this next session. Or in the case of Florida, where we do have term limits, but what ends up happening is people just shuffle from city commissioner to county commission to state rep to state senate. And by the time you've gone through all these steps, you've been a politician for 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've been a politician. You may have served in different roles, but you've been a politician for 20 years. And a lot of people have looked at me and said, well, you don't have any experience. And I was like, yeah, but that's a selling point. That's how you can tell that other people aren't they're not door knocking. I've been door knocking in Sunland, Melrose Park, Parkway. I made it a point to go door knock in the neighborhoods where I'm from. I can easily go door knock in Tamarack and Margate, and I have, but if I stay over there, how do I know what the people in Sunland need? How do I know what the people in Melrose Park need? How do I know what the people in Tatertown need? I'm showing where I'm from, calling it Tatertown. I don't even know the real name of that neighborhood, to be honest with you. I've been calling it Tatertown my whole life. No clue what that neighborhood's called. But how do I know what they need if I don't go door knock over there? And when I door knock, I'm not handing you a sheet of paper and walking away. I'm introducing myself. My name is Joseph Carter. I'm running for state senate. What are your concerns? Because I can sit here and talk to you and talk at you and tell you what I want to do, but I'm running to represent you, which means that if your concerns override what I want to do personally. So what are your concerns? What do you want to see done? And
so I'm gonna have to ask you something on that. So how are you fundraising, right? Are you taking like corporate money? Because that's another thing. A lot of people are like, I want to do what you're doing, but then you take them corporate dollars and then hey, you know what I'm saying?
All my money has come from individuals. Yeah, okay. All my money has come from individuals. I've had one guy donate more than like $500. I've had a few, but I think my average donation is something like $38. And like I said, when I'm door knocking or when I'm speaking at events, that's where I'm telling people, hey, you could donate here. I don't even think any corporations or PACs have even reached. I mean, PACs have reached out to me, but I didn't really fit their mold. We'll say that, And my thing is, I'm not going to go to Tallahassee and be controlled by anybody because they come back and say we gave you X, Y, Z. No, I don't want to. I want no parts of that. And I've had to turn down money because of that. I've had to turn down endorsements from PACs because they want me to completely, wholeheartedly represent this. And I've told them up front, I can't guarantee that. It takes conversation. I'd have to hear the other side. Like, I admit, I am not a healthcare guru. I think there's a lot of work that can be done with the healthcare system. But in order for us to fix that, I need to talk to people in the healthcare system. We can talk to politicians all we want, but politicians don't know anything about the healthcare system. They just want to get some votes. So how about we go and talk to people in the healthcare system? So I made a connection with the woman who was the chairman of Broward Health. And I've been picking her brain and asking her questions. The Broward Medical Association, PAC, I've reached out to them. They didn't endorse me. They endorsed it, another candidate in this race. But I've still reached out to them and sent emails and asked them questions about, what can we do with the healthcare system? Because that's what it takes. If you're going to represent people, you have to ask those people you represent what they need.
Okay, so that area where the forensic lab / morgue is, that part of your district?
Which one? The
where is that?
Elijah Bell?
It's
by Arthur Ashe. It's the one that's near Arthur Ashe, the school.
Yes.
Arthur Ashe. They're trying to build that the PSO forensic. Is that in your area? So the people, so you know that issue is going through the county commission right now. The people are like, we don't want it at all, and so we're going to see like what's your position on that, or are you familiar enough with the issue to state a position?
I'm not familiar enough with the issue, but I will say this: I'm always on the side with the people. I was very involved with the Brightline thing, and the people that lived where that Brightline was going to go through did not want that track there. Because it was running through a lot of retirement homes, 55 and older communities. It was loud, and the people there did not want it, specifically in an area, I want to say it's Coconut Creek, that might be Pompano, but they didn't want it there. And my thing is, if the people are telling you they don't want it there, in like mass, it's not like 3 people. It's like they're calling city commissions. They're calling like, hey, listen, we really don't want this here. As a politician, it is your job to go back and say, listen, my constituents don't want this. So we're going to have to rework this plan and place it elsewhere, do something. But this place is not going to work because the constituents don't want it. You have to be an advocate for constituents.
Right. So I hear what you said, but it's the thing with that though, right? Most communities ain't gonna want it, right? So they put it in the communities that they know they can get away with doing it, right? Like, and that's at the end of the day, it's unfortunate that that's the reality, but that's what it is. Because I live out west. And I'm telling you, they have been trying to build a Walmart, like, and someone said that they finally got to do it, right? Like they're finally going to do it. I still don't see it yet, but apparently they're going to do it. They have been trying to build this Walmart for 20 years, and the people like, hell nah, y'all not going to do that. And it just didn't happen. And I think they were able to get it. It's in an area that's more commercial now. So like, if you add a Walmart, what's the difference? Y'all got a whole plaza with a bunch of Kohl's, all these other stores there. Right. So it's not going to make, but it literally took them 20 years to get it done. But that's because they zoned the whole area commercial and took out a lot of the residential stuff. But so my point, I'm saying that to say this, that those people, they didn't want it, but nobody don't want it. I know they won't put it out here. You know what I mean? Like they just won't put it out here.
And that's where being an advocate for your district comes in. You have to be an advocate for your district. And if you aren't going to listen to the people, you're going to listen to me. And my thing is, you may get it done, but I'm going to be in your ear the whole time about it. And it's going to aggravate the hell out of you. So
and they should all lose their jobs too. So because they're not representing their constituents either. Because your people told you, the people that voted you there said they didn't want it. And that's another thing that I think especially communities of color should not be afraid to do is
speak up.
Vote people out. Like I mean, at the end of the day, just don't be scared. Like, so what, you like him, he nice. Your school went to your daughter, or he wrote a letter for your daughter to go to college or something like,
I've been very clear about that. Look, if people don't like the job I'm doing, vote me out or let me know, and I won't even run for re-election. Because again, I truly believe that the people need to be represented, and if I'm not doing a good job of that, then I don't need to be there. Now, everybody keeps saying, "Oh, everybody says that when they're a new candidate and you're gonna change." I'm like, that's fine, but this is where the community comes into play. Hold me accountable. Hold me accountable. When I go door knock, I give people my card with my cell phone number on it. Blow that
real number or that other number?
No, my cell phone number. That phone ring. Where is it? Oh, I'm using it for a light. This right here. All right. And when I tell people, like, listen, the number on this card rings to this phone. You go ahead, call it right now. You're gonna see. And the reason I do that is blow this phone up. If you are not happy with something I'm doing, call me. You call office if you want to, but I've tried that. I've called offices of politicians in the past when I was unhappy with anything. And this was senators, congressmen, state senators, state representatives. I've called. And ain't nothing more frustrating than getting the voicemail or getting a form letter in an email. That's aggravating. That's aggravating.
That auto reply foolishness.
Yeah. It's like, I know you didn't type this. So that's been my thing is like, no, call me. I had this cell phone for too long to change the number anyway. So call me. Now, when I'm not in office, I may change it because if I'm not here, I don't need y'all call. But while I'm in office, no, call me. Hold me accountable. If you don't like something I'm doing, let me know. If you don't like the way I voted on a particular bill, let me know. If you don't like legislation that's going through, let me know. Because again, it's my job to go to Tallahassee and be a representative and be an advocate for District 33.
All right.
All righty.
So tell the people how you can be reached, Mr. Carter. How they can, I think they can still donate to your campaign until what? Until
it's like,
well, I don't have a primary.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So yeah, so they can still donate to your campaign. All right. So tell them where you can be reached, where they can donate to your campaign, where they can come and volunteer for you as you go on this journey, so we can blast this on our pages, so people can see and reach you. And then, drop that phone number that you said they could blow up if they have questions. Questions and concerns, honey.
So they can reach me. josephccarter.com is my website. You can donate on that website. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Joseph C. Carter. Facebook is Joseph C. Carter FL, because somebody had already took Joseph C. Carter, messed my whole steez up. But so Joseph C. Carter FL on Facebook, but everywhere else is Joseph C. Carter. Website is josephccarter.com. I have a Telegram group that you can join, and I give updates on where I'm going to be door knocking. If they want to volunteer, you can text, and I never remember this off the top of my head, so give me 1 second. So if they want to volunteer, they can text WIN 2022, WIN 2022 to, where's the number? I don't know where the number is. If I told you I used to work for Apple, would you believe me?
No.
Not right now. I'm going to get this number.
All right. You can always put it back in the comments and when you redo the video.
Okay.
What's the phone number, Chad? What's the phone number that can blow you up at?
Okay. So WIN 2022. I just had it. This can't be happening right now. Oh my gosh. Where is it? Oh, there it is. 866-891-4169. So anybody wants to volunteer, if you text WIN 2022 to 866-891-4169, it'll add you to a text group. And that is where I communicate with all of the volunteers. I tell them where we're going to meet, what days, what times. So that's where you go if you want to volunteer. And then my number is 954-798-7288.
Okay, repeat that number one more time.
954-798-7288.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Carter, Mr. Joseph C. Carter, running for District 33, Senate District 33. He can be reached. I'm putting his stuff up now so you guys can see it. At josephccarter.com. Twitter is it Twitter or Instagram?
Twitter and Instagram is Joseph C. Carter. Facebook is Joseph C. Carter FL.
Oh, my bad. Hold on, I'm going to change it now. See, Joseph C. Carter. So Joseph C. Carter is for Twitter, right?
Twitter and Instagram.
Okay. All right. Okay, Mr. Carter, you have any other questions, the co-host? Joseph C. Carter at Twitter and Instagram.
No, that's it. Thank you so much for talking to us. It was a pleasure. Hopefully, so you don't have limits on how many bills you can introduce when you get to Tallahassee. So we hope, you go ahead and besides the education, infrastructure, and environment, you do some other things for District 33.
Definitely. And I will be in touch, as I would like input from everyone on what needs to be done in the district. So I will definitely keep in touch, and hopefully you all can be a resource if I'm elected.
We plan to, honey. We hold everybody accountable, and we want to be part of the.
We got a lot of money.
We all about that collective work, honey. So
Exactly.
we want a lot of money. We want you to make sure that you speak to your colleagues, let them know how this is detrimental to some areas. So you know, if you are decided to be the winner, the victor, trust us. We will be there and with bells on. We don't have no problem we work with anybody.
I hope so.
We work with anybody. That's what we do. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming. We appreciate your time.
Parkway.
Tell your little one.
I gotta go this way so you can see it.
I see it. Tell your little one happy birthday from us.
Yes, happy birthday.
12 is a great age. We love 12.
No, I don't think they're turning 12. No, how old are they turning? 12 today? No.
My oldest is turning. He turned 12 today.
12 today. Okay, all right. Yeah. All right.
You say it's a great age. You want them?
What happened?
I already have a 12-year-old.
I have two 12. Listen, I got two 12-year-olds.
You talking about it's a great age? You can bring them.
I got two 12-year-olds. I don't need no more.
Being facetious when I said 12 is a great age. I'm just saying I got a 12-year-old.
Well, listen, I'll send them with a food stipend every month. You can, and then just send them back at like 20. His college fund is already taken care of. I'll transfer it all. You can have them.
Yeah, listen, I got two of them. I don't need no more.
Thank you all for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you for coming.
You have a great day and good luck,
You
sir.
too. God bless.
Bye-bye. All right. So
good stuff.
I thought it was a great conversation.
Yeah, it was very good. Very good.
I thought it was a great conversation. I think that he does, have a sense of what the community needs per his perspective. I'm still kind of grappling with his choice of picking the Republican over the Democrat. I think he tried to explain it, but I guess maybe because I still have a hard time understanding that, but I respect his decision.
Yeah, so it reminded me of some Chicago politics, right? Because they were candidates that would run as Republicans in Chicago, even though they weren't. You know what I mean? And I don't want to say he's not, because he did say some of his ideology does align with the Republican Party. But I know, I went to college in Chicago, and that was one of the things some of the people did to make sure that they were on the ballot. They ran as Republicans to make sure they'll be on the ballot.
Yep. So
because he said he has no primary, so he's not going to be. I don't think he's on the ballot until March 8th. So,
yes, right.
So that's part of, because there's no other Republican unless there's another Republican running. There will be no. He's it. He's going to be the Republican nominee.
You're right.
The Republican nominee. So he'll be on the ballot March 8th, running against either Osgood or William Eddy. So that's part of what that is. That's the insurance of being on the ballot for the actual election. So I'm not saying that's why he did it, but it could be why he did it. He said he had no primary, so he's not on the ballot for January 11th.
Yeah. I know he mentioned something to the effect of his advisor said that you have to pick a party in terms of.
But that's because he said he was a non-party affiliate, and it's easy. Yeah, because a lot of times, the NPA population is growing, so it might be a way to get money from NPAs now. But typically, you have a better chance of getting money if you're either a Democrat or Republican, and that might be what that conversation was about.
Okay. Well, I thought it was a great interview. Liked his perspectives. I think that he is a formidable candidate against the other two Democrats that are running. People may say that new candidates don't have experience, but one thing they do have is that they have the pulse of the people.
Yeah,
and that's all you need if you have the pulse of the people. So you don't necessarily need to have that background. I'm glad that he's a proponent of term limits. I think that it's crucial that we have term limits, because you have people like Joe Manchin sitting up here causing nothing but havoc and wreaking havoc up there and causing us nothing but problems. We if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be having these crises. Stocks are falling because he decided that he's not going to vote for this.
Well, I ain't worried about the stock market, because that ain't where most people money come from. So
I know it's not where most people, but it also dictates how things move. Rents.
I understand, but one of the things that's part of the thing what like people with money be making regular people think that the stock market has an impact on their life. And I'm one of the regular people that, I mean, I had money in the stock market before.
But commodity, I'm talking about commodity things, pricing. It makes things
but that's not, the pricing thing is nonsense too, right? Because they still find money to give the executives like $16 million a year. The shareholders still get money because it's one executive. Like, was it McDonald's executive that got to pay back like $100 million or something? Like, it was some executive,
something like that.
It's some executive that just left that got to pay back $100 million. Like, why you made $100 million anyway? You know what I'm saying? So all of this stuff where they try to have these conversations to make it seem as though like it's because of the stock market that regular people is getting all this stress. No, them business people, they just stressing our regular people because they don't want to change their life. They don't care about ours. You know what I mean? They want to still be able to had their wife go get Birkin bags and have mimosas for lunch.
That's who Joe Manchin embodies, is those people.
Yeah. I mean, I think his daughter is like some sort of, his daughter's like a lobbyist.
She in trouble in pharmaceuticals because she out here.
Yeah. She's okay. That's what it is. She's in a pharmaceutical.
He's making $1 million a year off of her company, and he's making 1 point something million off an oil company that he's partnered with or whatever. So he don't care about small folks like us.
Not in West Virginia. In West Virginia, one of them post states.
He don't care.
Not even 4 states. They are post states.
What I'm trying to make is that if we had term limits, we wouldn't have to be dealing with this foolery.
Him and a whole bunch of the other ones, though. I mean, you do like, so I agree with that because I think you do need to have like some level of experience like in there because there's some of the things that you kind of just learn with time. So you don't want to be like 2 years, get out, that kind of stuff. But 40, 50 years though, come on now.
That 30, 40 years is too much.
That's too long. That is absolutely too long.
And then you're there for 30, 40 years with no succession plan. That's what irritates me.
Yeah. You just don't, you got to die and then people got to figure it out.
Yeah, people just die in their thing or whatever, and then you leave a whole bunch of bag of mess for other people to think. I don't think that's. I think that's just very irresponsible for people who are in politics. If you're gonna run and stay forever, you should have a succession plan. That's all I'm saying. Bring people from the back, bring them up.
Let it be clear, so it wouldn't be 11 candidates in a race.
Well,
I'm just saying.
What you're saying?
Ain't no shade. I'm just saying.
No, it's not no shade. That's the truth. It's the truth. The same thing with what's his name? The one that just John Lewis.
John Lewis.
It's the same thing. Y'all can't be just sitting there.
But they got a good person to represent him. That the young lady, I can't think of her last name. I think her name Williams. I think that's her name. They came out of that district. She was a good candidate. She'd been part of the Democratic Party since she was 18 and all that stuff. So she definitely a good person. Definitely, took his spot.
Well, I just want people to realize that Joe Manchin is not just causing an issue with that legislation, but he's also causing an issue in terms of how our House, Senate, and the presidency is going to look in 2024. So people need to pay attention to that, right? And if there is some rumor behind him defecting and becoming a Republican,
independent, who cares? If this is what you're doing as a Democrat, boy, bye. But the thing about it is, it looks like both house Congress might be red in 22.
Listen, I see it. I see the writing on the
wall. On the wall, yeah.
And let me tell you, if they do become red on 2022, all these legislations that we having problems with and we complaining about or whatever, that's nothing compared to what's going to take place when they take over.
It's going to be stupid for 2 years at least.
This point, there's no, as the candidate that was here talking about how we need to have a conversation and stop fighting, that's a big issue. The big issue is that they're so busy holding on to this party ideology and we have to do this and whatever. They completely ignore the fact that they are there to represent the constituents. They are not there on their own behalf, on their own accord. And that's what irritates me about these politicians and these state senators and these congressional people or whatever. You're not here representing yourself. You here representing your constituents. And if your constituent says back off, or we don't want that, or this is what we want, that's your job to bring it there. That's your job, is not to be there and be like, okay, well, we all gonna join hands and be like, give the Republicans a hard time, and vice versa. Like, this is not, you playing with people's lives. They playing with people's lives.
Absolutely.
Zero. They give zero.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
So anyway.
All righty.
So great interview.
Thank you, Mr. Carter.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on. I don't think we have anything for next week. I think we're
no, because it's no. I don't think we have, no. I don't think we have anything for next week. We're gonna just go ahead and take this little break for the holiday, and we'll start our new season on January 4th with
Katrina Touchstone. She is a advocate in her city, West Park. She also has her office, but she is well versed in local politics. And so we have a great time talking to her. That's what you do not want to miss, because this is somebody from the people, okay, and knows what the people need, goes out of her way to help everybody in her community. So this is a great community activist and advocate. And so
I think we'll be starting at 6:30 then or something like that.
Starting at 6:30. Just for that one interview, but we'll go back to our regular schedule at 5:30. My closing remarks is go get vaccinated. Okay. I caught COVID and I'm fully vaccinated. All right. And I have to tell you, and my kid caught it from school and she brought it home to everybody else. All right. When they decided to lax this mask mandate or whatever, believe what I'm telling you, the numbers started spiking up the minute that we said that we didn't want the kids wearing masks at school. Okay. That's just my thing. You could do your own research and figure that out. But I'm telling you, the minute these things started to be like, okay, mask is not mandatory, it's optional or whatever, here we go. I'm going into the Christmas season, not being able to do anything or go anywhere. Not that I was going to go anywhere, but go anywhere or do anything because I have COVID. The silver lining to that is that I got mild symptoms as well as all the rest of my family. But I can only imagine how it feels when someone who is not vaccinated and how they would feel, because the first real day I was achy everywhere. I couldn't move. And I could only imagine if I hadn't taken the shot, how bad that could have been. So, take your vaccine, take your booster shots. I know co-host went and got her booster shot.
I did.
And be vigilant. Continue to wear your mask. And I'm a person, my kids are very stickler about the mask, so much so even when they're in the car, they don't take off their mask until they get home. They don't even they take it in the garage, throw it in the trash and come inside the house. That's how they do things. They just don't even take it off. So my kids were very vigilant when it comes down to stuff like that. But again, the kids eat lunch. And when they eat lunch, they don't have their mask on. And they're in the schools, believe it or not, they are not social distancing. Okay. So you still have that window where they could be infected. I just think that it's, in my opinion, it's very important for people to take that step to protect themselves and protect people around them, because we all live in this earth together and we have to make sure that we take care of each other. And the fact that people are walking around here with no mask, because they feel like since they're fully vaccinated, and let me tell you, the Omicron, and co-hosts can tell you, Omicron is so contagious. They're all they're talking about on the news is these breakout cases. What breakout cases mean? People who are fully vaccinated getting COVID. That's what breakout cases mean.
So I would so to me, they never said you weren't going to get COVID if you were vaccinated, right? So I'm like, please, let's not mix this message up, right? They call it breakout cases, but I'm like, even when I went and got vaccinated, they didn't tell me I was not going to I couldn't get COVID. You just said that I would most likely not end up in the ICU and die from COVID, but they said I could still get COVID, right?
Well, so do you think it's mixed messaging? You think it's mixed messaging?
Yeah, I think they need to be real clear to let people know, because you vaccinated don't mean you're not going to get COVID. You still could get COVID and you could still spread COVID, right? So they need to be real clear about that, because I think part of that is what's happening. Because I've gone to places and you see all these people unmasked. They be like, but I'm vaccinated. I'm like, so you can still get COVID and you can still give somebody COVID. So that's where I think the problem is that people think because they were vaccinated they couldn't get it. Yeah. No, you can still get it. What the word on the street was at the time was that you would not end up in the ICU or you would not die. Not that you won't, that your chances of ending up in the ICU and the chances of you dying was decreased, because they had like a 90 to 95% effective rate, right? And so when I decided to get it, that was my thing. Because my son plays travel and we were back in these streets, and I was like, okay, at least I won't end up in the ICU or dead from it. At least the chances of me ending up in the ending up in the ICU and dying from it would be reduced significantly if I went ahead and got vaccinated. That's why I did it. But I was never under the impression that I could not get COVID.
Yeah, I was never under the impression I couldn't get COVID either. But I'm glad that you pointed that out in terms of messaging. It's really important that you point that out, because when you see on the news breakout cases, right? You think, oh, it's the new Omicron and new host of people getting the virus. But the breakout cases mean people who are fully vaccinated. Rather than saying that, I totally agree with you that they need to really change the wording, because when they started the administration of the shots, they did say, hey, we're not saying that you're not going to get it. We're just saying that the symptoms are going to be less severe. You may not have to be in the hospital. Yeah. And if they still kept on that same conversation and that same messaging, I think more people would have been vaccinated.
And the vaccinated people would have kept their mask on, right? Exactly. They probably was walking around with COVID because their symptoms were mild or they didn't have them. They out here spreading COVID to everybody. You understand what I'm saying?
And there are people who are asymptomatic who've gotten fully vaccinated who have COVID. And they don't know they have COVID because they're asymptomatic, right? And so they're out there not wearing a mask because they said, well, since you're vaccinated, you ain't got to wear no mask or whatever the case is. And so those people, you can't really blame them per se, because you told them that it was okay once it was
okay to not wear no mask outside because, you know, you vaccinated, but you're in people's face. So
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so, and I went to an event that kind of turned it was a couple of weeks, like I don't know, the days are weird now, right? But it might have been a couple Saturdays ago, and one of the people that we were near turned out to ended up having COVID. They had been what they call it? They were vaccinated and they got their booster shot the same week that they ended up getting COVID. Wow. Luckily for them, the symptoms were mild, but they were still sick enough that they were like, oh, something ain't right. And so they ended up having to go get tested and everything like that. So yeah, and when I was at that event, I sat there, I was like, yo, this is a whole super spreader. You know what I mean? Because it was like people everywhere, but I made it my business to be on the outside part of it. And I don't fool with a whole bunch of folks anyway. So, I mean, I know a lot of people. I just don't deal with a lot of people.
We be on the phone when
I be in the car with my mask on. It called me stupid.
Girl, when we be on the phone and I'm at Publix, I said, Sandra, none of these people got a mask on. Not one person up in here with no mask. I'm confused. I said, are we still in COVID or are we not in COVID?
Let me tell you. So you still go to the store. I barely go. I pay extra for everything because they drop them off at my front door. And I know everybody can't do it. And I'm not trying to act like I'm nothing important or special or nothing like that. But I just don't need to be in there.
I was just telling. I said I'm at Costco. Oh, what did I tell you when I went to Costco?
But I still support the economy because we buy groceries all the time. I'm just not going out there, and I'm keeping people employed because I ain't gonna say the name of the girl, but it's what it seems like I keep getting the same shopper. I'm like, she's shopping for me again. So I'm sure she like keep it up. You know what I'm saying?
I'm telling you, I remember when I told you last week I went to Costco's prior to getting COVID. And I said, Sandra, do you know they disinfecting the trolleys again? I said, that's something ain't right. Because they had stopped doing that for a long time. They were like, oh, well, everybody getting vaccinated or whatever. Now all of a sudden they starting to disinfect all the trolleys and stuff like that. Because I'm telling you, man, the COVID is not over. We still in COVID, people. Please wear your mask. Please social distance. Please wash your hands. All right. Because you have people who follow the rules and masking up and trying to protect themselves, still getting infected because you have people who are out there being irresponsible. And yes, that it is irresponsible if you're not making sure you're protecting your family and protecting others. We all live here together. This earth is not just for you, it's for everybody. I'm just saying. So that's my final word. What's your final word?
You know me, who live in Tamarack, Margate, District 4 school board, need a candidate. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Come on, y'all. Somebody need to run.
We do not believe in
that. Somebody needs to run against her. I don't know who you is.
Do not believe in candidates running unopposed. Somebody
not for that. We're not about that unopposed life.
Absolutely not. So somebody need to put their hand in there or something like that. You still got time. Drop your name.
I canvas for you. I help you fundraise. I don't know how much money I can get you, but I'll go ahead. I'll get on the phone and beg for you.
Me too. I'll be the first.
And I'll walk around.
Send out emails. What you need.
Yeah, what was that? Coral Springs, Tamarack, Margate, Parkland, District 4.
So is it
school board needs a candidate?
Yep. They need somebody. Yeah, the person who's running unopposed.
Shouldn't happen.
Let's go. All the other candidates on the school board have opponents. She shouldn't be running unopposed.
And you want to. Don't be scared.
Jump right on in there.
Jump in there, y'all.
We need new blood on the school board.
I think she went on there with a purpose. I think she could accomplish her mission's accomplished, so she could go on about her business now.
Yeah, she should go.
Leave the rest of us alone.
She should go ahead and go rally.
Go find some other stuff to do.
She could be. What's that thing they call them when they up in what?
Go be a lobbyist.
She could do that.
Yeah, go do that. Yeah, leave the school board alone.
Go do that and use her nonprofit to go ahead and push and prod.
Go do something else. Leave the school board alone. All right, Mom. Got an appointment coming up. So.
All right.
Y'all. See you guys next year.
Next year.
Unless something comes up. Now, if somebody want to holler at us and we need to get y'all that information, we might hop on in between. But other than that, we're going to see y'all next year, January 4th, 2022, with West Park activist. Say her name.
Katrina Touchstone. Katrina Touchstone. All right. That's what we're talking to. So we'll see y'all. Peace.
Bye-bye.